Hello scrappers, let me show you what I found. It's really phenomenal. It's really rare to find such a board. This is really old board. I can look at the ICs from it. It says 90, 90, 91. So this board is something like 30 years old. But the most interesting are not the ICs that you see on top. The most interesting are these brown Bulgarian capacitors, because they contain palladium. And it's really rare to see so many on a single board. So what I will do now, I will cut them and have a look at them. When you cut them, you always have to cut well the legs like this, because we don't measure the legs, we measure only the capacitors when we calculate our yield. And these ones, they have really long legs, and some of them are huge. I think this one is 1 microfarad probably. Let me have a look at it. So this one is really big. It says exactly 1 microfarad. So this is really important to have big ones, because the bigger the better here. The bigger is the capacitor, the bigger is the core that contains palladium. And usually the yield from these capacitors varies, but what I've seen in the past processing them, and I process them on big batches. I don't process them when I have 50 grams. I process them when I have 1 kilogram, just because when you recover palladium, it's a different setup. I usually work with gold and silver. With palladium, you have different chemicals, some of them really poisonous. You have different setup, and that's why I usually process palladium and work with recovered palladium once or twice per year, when I accumulate enough capacitors, MLCCs, different Russian, ex-USSR, Russia, and Soviet republics, also MLCCs from the modern electronics, magnetic, non-magnetic ones. I separate them because I a little bit differently process them. That's why I separate magnetic from non-magnetic. Usually they're magnetic because there's a lot of nickel in them. That's the main reason. But as you see, I will spend some time cutting all these, and they really quickly accumulate here. So besides these capacitors on the board, these are with gold-plated legs and gold-plated surface inside. Also we have tiny gold wiring inside of these. Some of them are transistors, other are ICs. And yeah, it's really interesting. Not to waste your time, I'll cut all of them and let's meet and measure to see what is the final result. After that, I'll depopulate the board and show you everything else that is on top. So, me again, just because many people ask about the cutters that I use. These are for electronics, so this part is flat here. It's really cheap, pros kit from China, something like $3-4 per one of these, and they're really easy to cut the legs of the capacitors and to depopulate boards, because they're small, fit in the hand. And the most important, because this part here is flat, you can cut really close to the board. So this was just a remark about the cutters, because I saw many comments under my other videos about the cutters that I use. So this specific one is PM30D Pros Kit. It's something crazy cheap, but really useful, because with the big ones, usually when I cut electronic elements and depopulate boards, I create a big mess. That's my experience. The smaller the cutters, the cleaner the depopulation goes. Okay, I still have some more to cut of these capacitors. and I'm quickly building this pile here. Looks really optimistic. After cutting them, I'll show you how I will complete the depopulation of this board. I'll use my hot air gun and remove everything else from here. Managed to clean all this. So let's measure now what's the weight of these brown Bulgarian capacitors. Starting the scale, I will just put here this crucible, 0, and let's see, it's 27 grams. 27 grams, this is more than 1 gram of palladium inside of this. Usually from this size, 27-28 grams of palladium. Let's measure it one more time, 27.9. So usually from these Bulgarian capacitors, depending on the size, we have between 3, 4 and 5, or sometimes if they're huge, more than 5 grams of palladium per kilogram. So these 27 grams are giving me at least at about 1 gram of palladium, which is good score for one board. It's one single board and 1 gram of palladium just sitting here in these capacitors. Okay, let's now depopulate the board and see what else we have on top of it. Okay, so that's the next step. This is my hot air gun, and I will try to depopulate now this board. I'll just show you how it goes and then speed it up, not to waste your time. So the most important is never stop moving your gun, because if you burn the board, it smells awful. So don't burn the board. That's my advice. Okay guys, just to show you why I am chasing these small nice ICs, because inside of them you can see we have really good gold plating, and this is really high gold yield. It's more than 3 grams per kilogram of this, sometimes much more, depends on the year and the quality. So also the decks are gold plated, as you can see. And that's how the IC looks like inside. So there are gold wirings between the RX and this crystal in the middle, and on top of this, in many cases, we have the gold RX themselves gold plated. Yeah, like here you can see it's visible gold plating on the RX. So that's why I remove these ICs. I'll complete this job and let's measure together and check what we got. But broke some just to show you why the old USSR ICs are so expensive and so good for gold recovery. Just because we have a lot of gold wiring and gold plating inside. That's the reason. I'll be back in a minute. Okay guys, let's recap what we have at the end. We have 28 grams of these beautiful Bulgarian brown capacitors, high palladium content. It's more than 1 gram palladium that I'm holding in my hand now. Second, you see here 4 transistors, gold content 0.01 each, and we have these 3 really beautiful with 8 gold legs each. ICs, they're from Soviet Union and they have really high gold content. So together, this is definitely a little bit less than 0.1 gram of gold, probably I'll get from these 7. And what else? Look here, 66 ICs that I just put in my huge pile. I am stockpiling here the Soviet Union ICs, and when I fill this box, I'll process them. So that's the final result, guys. It's from one single board, more than 1 gram of palladium and more than 0.2 grams of gold for sure from one board. Thanks for watching, keep scrapping, and at the end we'll meet in the laboratory where we'll recover the gold. Bye!